Hey guys, got a quick cast for you here, and actually that's why I'm not starting the replay quite yet, because it's so quick it'll be over before you know it. Wanted to just quickly mention I have a car again. Anyone who has been kind of following my Facebook at all knows my previous car, which was an old 93 Sunbird that had a hole in the door that looked like a 50 cal round, which I thought was actually pretty cool. It added character. Anyways, it broke down, dropped its catalytic converter in the middle of a highway, and apparently that's a bad sign. So I am now mobile again, and I actually got a really nice, reliable car, so I'm pumped about that. On that note, I want to do this actually just because he was so helpful. Big shout out to Brian Beavers at Schoner Chevrolet in Hartville. If you need a used car, I really recommend him. I'm not getting any compensation for that recommendation. He is the most honest salesman I've ever met. And he came recommended from a friend, and honestly, he helped me out of a bind. So, I can't promise necessarily that he'll do anything for you, but he's extremely honest. I can vouch that much. Anyways, let's get to the replay. So in the bottom left, I have me as the, well, in this case green, but blue Zerg player momentarily. In the bottom right, we have Cheery Jiraden. We're going to say Cheery because he seems cheery, as the red Protoss, who is immediately moving out of probe. So we know what this means. We got some cheese coming. And I have been wanting to do a cast like this for a while because I constantly get asked, well, 11overpool is kind of cool, but I don't know how it would handle cheese because the timings are so weird. And so I've constantly said, okay, 11overpool hard counters cheese, just take my word for it. But don't get too terribly many examples to demonstrate that with. So I felt like this was a pretty good game to show that with. So we see the pylon cruising on over, dropping the pylon, or the probe cruising on over, dropping the pylon, just outside of vision. And actually, we pretty much know what's going on here on his side of the map. So let's look at what I see, because I think that's part of, if you're trying to implement 11overpool, that's part of what's very important, is knowing where to put everything. So Overlord 1, going straight over, going to need to confirm, are we Nexus first, or Forge first, or Gateway first, because that's going to change a little bit of how I play. Overlord number 2 going to the natural, and it will actually miss this Proxy gateway. Now, if you're a little spooked about the potential for Proxy gateway, you could change your pathing. You could have it scoot up top and then scoot over to the natural. But that's going to mean you're going to see the probe a little bit later, and you'll technically be a little more vulnerable to cannon rush, although I wouldn't necessarily say that's going to be too much of a concern. If you lose to cannon rush, it means you screwed the Pritch pretty badly in some way. And so, yeah, this is a case where it didn't go scouted, but then we're just going to kind of watch how this plays out, because this actually is pretty interesting and a pretty good example of how this typically goes, even when it's not scouted. Now, I'm doing the 2-ling variety, and it's up to you. It used to be when I didn't see a probe scout, I would do the 4-ling variety every time, and I would immediately check there, check there. Actually, technically, I don't think you can do anything there, but nevertheless, I'm very thorough when I do the 4-ling variety, just check everywhere, unless I spot Nexus first. And the lings are going to actually run by, and I'm dropping my nat. Thus far, nothing here has indicated to me that I have proxy, because I scoop my Overlord over, don't actually check the main, probably should have. But then the third Overlord, and this is important, you need to identify where your weak points are in your scouting on every map. And that third Overlord needs to pass through that weak point as a final line of defense, because this point right here is critical. Notice this was about the fastest you could possibly do a proxy. Dumping all the chrono boost, cut probe super early. Literally, the probe moved out at 6 so that he could get the pylon dropped in time. I mean, this is as cheesy as it gets. And the timing is pretty good. My Overlord spots when 2 Zealots are out, and third, due to dumping chrono boost, is about to finish. So this, I feel like, is a great example of quite literally worst case scenario. So let's watch how it goes. So immediately I drop 2 spines, and technically a little room for improvement here. These 2 spines, if we want to really nitpick this game, should be, they're good because they're on the opposite side of my hatchery, so that's the first thing you want to follow. Wherever their gateways are, put the spines on the opposite side. You're going to force them to run on creep that much longer, take more free hits from the queens, give your drones more time to surround. But if you really want to botch up their surface area, you can do something like this. You can put a spine there, you can put a spine there, or you can maybe even put a spine hugging that spawning pool and then wrap a few drones around the corner and wedge the queen in there so that it's getting free shots. And they may try and trade with the queen, but given the bad surface area and that the drones can help, that's not going to be a very good exchange for them because the two spines will both finish unhindered. Now, notice something really interesting here. I'm not canceling my natural, and that's very bizarre. You typically do not see someone hold a proxy 2-gate without canceling their natural. But two spines and a queen and two zerglings heading across the map, this is pretty comfortable for me. Now, he actually, notice how quick he was to target my drones. So in terms of microing, at least on this side of the map, he was pretty good. He's clearly seen this kind of defense before. So this also isn't a case where he just derped and let all of his zealots move command. He even had one focusing on the one vulnerable spine up top. So thus far as what he can do with 3 zealots, I feel like his decision making is very strong. But that's where these two zerglings come into play. Now, if you're really spooked about this kind of play and you're not confident that your micro is going to be up to the task, go the 4 zergling variety. That's the point that even with just a standard A move, you're going to do a lot of damage because he has very few probes over here to deal with those zerglings. But if you're confident in your multitasking and you're confident in your micro, these 2 zerglings are going to crush him. This is all you need. And if you lose the zerglings due to some bad micro, some slip up in your multitasking, then just make 2 more and run them across the map. But that's all you need. So this is going to be hard to cast. I'll try my best. You get the idea of what's going on over here. This spine is pretty inevitably going to finish up. We have lost 5 workers. He's doing pretty well in that regard, but we're about to equalize that momentarily. So on this side of the map, this is where you find your cheeser oftentimes slips up in their multitasking. First off, they're getting constant "our units are under attack" warnings, and that may mean that the "our probes are under attack" warning doesn't go through. It can happen. If the audio is already being triggered for the "our units are under attack" warning, they won't get notified that their probes are under attack unless they notice it on their minimap. The important thing here is, let's see, 6 probes, so I've already equalized in probe kills, and I was ahead at the start anyways. But then the other part is, even when I botch up a little bit and am microing to handle his next attack, I lose the 2 zerglings, but they, right when I recognize I'm going to have to pull them away, I pull them quite a ways away. Now, I could have really improved that by right-clicking down there rather than up there. His probes probably turn around. My zerglings stay alive to continue harassing another day. But the important thing is, I don't want to give away this queen. I don't want to give away this spine. So notice, even though I do have some mining going, I had some drones still hugging that spine. And then once I recognize he's pulling in 3 zealots and a probe, then I'm ready to go ahead and pull all my drones. We're really running low mining here as a result, and that is the biggest challenge with this hold, is that we're kind of eking in just a few minerals here and there. And so there can be times where you are actually mining less than your opponent on 10 drones, when he only has 5 probes. And that's why it's really crucial that the moment these 2 zerglings die, we recognize that and say, rather than making another drone, we're going to make another zergling, another pair of zerglings. Now, that's the only other strange thing about this hold that you may have just heard. I'm quite literally droning through a proxy 2-gate because my defensive measure is walling the spine and making more spines. Also, as a last-ditch effort, if this goes sour for any reason, I start kiting with this queen when it's super low, and I start spining my natural. Once he recognizes, well, there's 2 possibilities there. He's either going to recognize the spine went down at the natural, and he's going to split off his zealots, which is phenomenal for you. You keep all your drones in your main, and you go ahead and kill the zealots that have been left in your main while he tries to deny the natural. Oftentimes, though, your Protoss opponent is going to assume that you're going to do the standard thing and cancel the nat, which we didn't do. That gives us a redundancy. If we start to recognize that our main is going to fall, which I came very close to reaching that point here. This spine was very, very close, and if I didn't have so many drones, I would already be starting a spine at my nat. But I have enough drones that I'm very confident, after all the mining I've denied and all of the probes I've killed, he's not going to be able to muster enough zealots to punch through a drone surround. So we're going to go ahead and instead just make another spine, just in case we're not watching and he sneaks in a zealot and gets another couple chops at that spine. But otherwise, we're pretty confident here that he's reaching the probe count, that even on an A move, we're doing some very good damage. So there we go, another probe, and he's down to the point that he cannot physically support even 1 gateway, let alone 2 gateways with chrono boost. So he scoots down, tries to run out the Zealot. At this point, he's pretty much out of the game. We are 12 drones versus 2. And that's when he goes, oh crap. He tries to run down the ramp. He's going to try and do a ramp block off. That's the last-ditch effort of a Proxy 2-gate. They'll get some Zealots walling off your ramp. And that's what makes this really cool. All of a sudden, they get down there, they start walling off your ramp, and they go, holy crap, he did all of that without canceling his NAT. And that's when they realize they are miles behind, and this game is over. So he did get the snipe on that spine with another Zealot running by, but there you have it, GG. So I hope that helps. There's a lot going on here in the multitasking department, so if you're not confident in that, again, the 4 Zerglings will do very reliable damage even on an A move because his probe count is so low. If you're confident in your multitasking, you're at least diamond level. Even if you just surround with the drones and focus on the Zerglings, those are the more important of the 2 areas to micro. So there you have it. I hope that helps. But yeah, it's kind of one of those, whether it's a hard counter or not depends entirely on your decision making the moment you spot that. And I hope that kind of demonstrates that, because if I was cranking out Zerglings this entire time, I was doing the knee-jerk reaction of keeping my Zerglings at home to defend, all of those things, then I would be in a world of trouble right now. But you can either choose to crank out Zerglings and run them right across the map until you see a pylon wall and a cannon, or you can do the more stable approach, which I prefer, which is just make drones and micro your drones to the best of your ability around a spine. And drones actually are pretty good against Zealots as long as they're microed really, really well. So there you go. Okay, so super short cast, but I thought this was a good one to show just to answer kind of an FAQ. Okay, thanks a bunch for watching, guys.